everyone. No one. Seems like no one, honestly, but I'm still speaking here. Today, gonna discuss the other side to spirituality that is overlooked and constructs. How constructs create distraction and fragmenting. The truth is, even if certain spiritual teachings have a basis in truth, or conversely, if they're complete dogmatic inversion fabrication, they still can be used as implants that enforce specific archetypes and enforce specific needs or methods of salvationistic theologies that will keep you in an illusion, within an illusion. With religions especially, and also don't leave out spirituality and New Age. They use terms to reel you in, to hook you in enticement over fawning over identification over terms, corresponding, like the connotations with words that are so high and mighty that you pay reverence to, and you lose your sense of sovereignty. You lose your sense of clarity. You lose your sense of actual awareness, present moment awareness, by taglining and just associating with all these terms in such a way that creates an unhealthy relationship. For example, if you're just going to keep repeating and just sticking that your star seed, you're feeding into some, like, oh, your special star seed is planted here and you're going to help. The truth is, if there's any star seed, it's every human being, because we're all related to the 12th strand of the 6 earth seeds and the 6 star seeds. So to fully identify yourself as just only a star seed, you're limiting yourself on top of that. You're literally using a form of ego identification in the same way someone could just label themselves, I'm a Democrat. Yeah, sure you are. There is many spiritual systems that lure you in a certain way that you are completely hypnotized and awestruck by the pursuing of this bits of knowledge and mentally masturbating and just grabbing all this information, that you stop and fail to recognize that you have an inherent ability, regardless of any fucking teaching, to be present moment awareness and able to have discernment of your thought patterns and be in an equilibrium, integrated state of all emotion. But unfortunately, everything has a paradoxical nature. So therefore, once you set up a construct of spiritual systems, it can actually be another form of enslavement when it's so-called intended for emancipation or freedom or for salvation, quote unquote. It's a very roundabout and it's kind of non-tangible concept, what I'm trying to get at here. But the constant, like, distraction and illusion from belief systems and spiritual systems become deterrents for a sense of deeper understanding that surpasses systems of spirituality. Because if you look at it, if I'm being honest, if you ever take some mushrooms, sure, there may be some subconscious programming there from your years of and this particular incarnation, but ultimately you're just reflecting. You might be having thought patterns that are completely accelerated, but you're reflecting internal knowledge that's sourced from you. It's all sourced from you. Now, as I said, everything is paradoxical. So even if you get a fucking priest teaching you, he's still a version of a fragment of you, and not at the same time. But we're referring to literally yourself, your thought impulses sourcing from your quote unquote higher self, which is another highly abused term in the New Cage movement. So if you ever taken psychedelic paraphernalia, such as mushroom, at least from my personal experience, I have learned many spiritual doctrines of all kinds, the mainstream religions, the esoteric to the mainstream of, your typical Abrahamic and Vedic religions and Buddhic religions, and also even the Guardian Lines, Melchizedek, Cloister, Emerald Order teachings can be grouped in the same as spiritual teachings, but it's the most honest and the most distance from, oh, worship this, worship that, externalize this, externalize that, here's your salvation. It is, in truth, to our point we are right now, it's still a distraction in terms of like pursuing the knowledge that is going to be like set you free completely. Melchizedek only will set you free. That can't be the case, because then what would that create? It would create just another type of religious or spiritual system, and that's what it is. And it's completely different from other spiritual systems entirely, because it enforces that this information was brought to you by you. Brought to you by you. This is information you've known and information that has been erased from you. So therefore, these teachings, all the answers to the universe are inside. We're not talking about specifically Akashic records, because that can also be a highly misused term in the New Age movement. Basically, every term they use in the New Age movement, they've abused and distorted, especially Ascended Masters, Starseed, Empath. They destroyed the concept of empath. They didn't destroy it, but they just made it stigma, like an ego identification. It becomes most likely essential spiritual narcissism. If you're just going to consider yourself solely empath, you can sense everything, you can feel everything, you have to absorb or observe every emotion and energy and auric fields. Okay, yeah, that might be the case. But are we really going to sit here and just, remain latched onto implants and just identifying? It's like a slave matrix of just like people can't coincide. The concept of slavery and the concept of just being embedded within a doctrine and embedded within, it becomes a soul enslavement. Truly. So yes, you have potentiality to unlock your DNA. Yes, you have potentiality to unlock your internal universal records or your inner standing. But the point I'm trying to make in this particular video is embedding or implanting with archetypes and stories and concepts and ultimatums in certain religion. Christian, certain religion, ultimatum, right? These are all implants. These are all brainwashing tactics, very advanced harvesting programs. They're harvesting programs, emotionally energy harvesting programs to various degrees. If you look at churches, modern day churches, they're entirely energy harvesting structures, feeding off of your emotional energy, feeding off of your sense of loosh. Maybe not completely loosh, because you're not getting like tortured most of the time, but definitely emotional energy harvesting. Definitely spiritual systems can be a massive lure away from your inherent present moment ability to assess and integrate self. Now, I feel like there may be a degree of like, okay, you may need to be informed about certain things and whatnot, about what happens on the astral plane once you leave your body, your physical body. I mean, there's many aspects to how that can play out. Actually, your biology may actually convert, or you may leave the body, but there is certain details about how you're going to, what happens after this lifetime and what normally occurs, your ability to transcend time even, well, that's way later on, but your ability to transcend your carbon biology, your ability to transcend dimensional fields. It's something to keep in mind, right? But I've noticed even with guardian teachings or Christic teachings, it can become an implant as well. You're still here on this first density plane on 3D on Earth here, and there's many other things presented to you. Maybe they might be implants as well. I'm sure they are. I mean, fucking anything government money related 100% is, and even worse implants and religious brainwashing and religious programming. But the point I'm trying to make is that, like, essentially everything has this degree of like, okay, use some discernment and like, how fanatical am I getting about this content? It's not about it being, this is the point I'm trying to make, it's not about it being true or not, right? Because I've come to the conclusion that yes, Melchizedek offers, the MCEO Freedom Teachers offers a set of teachings that is so intricately advanced that the information proves its validity within itself. So it's not about that aspect. It's about constantly aiming and searching and just a lust and pursuing for specific answers and whatnot. I'm sure all developing or quote unquote awakening minds have that kind of impulse and urge to go after the answers, but there's a fine line between reaching into addiction. It's like with weed, you do some weed, it's medicinal and it'll help you out, but guess what, you can slip into a dependency and a fanatical implant to that weed, and I can personally attest to that because I've been addicted to weed for a few years. So literally, that's how you can refer to the implants propagated to lose your sense of dignity, your sense of integrity, your sense of sovereignty, your sense of present moment awareness. Most mainstream religions do this. We are going to include Guardian Alliance or higher advanced spiritual teachings a part of this because, as I said, there's a fine line between, integrating the tools and teachings and information and understanding and techniques and methods But then it becomes a fanatical aspect of dependency on it. And it becomes your entire life. You essentially become reprogrammed to be just a parroting robot of what you've learned. And you lose that, and you may lose that need for just being spontaneous and you exercising free will to the highest degree. Not to start like destroying things, to actually understand your connection to everything and to, be spontaneous. This is a very broad subject. We're just talking about not being in a constant state of just robotic understanding and just like, oh, you're all knowing now. So now you can't be funny, you can't be silly, you can't cry, and you can't get angry. Now you have to be just a perfect being like God, like the freaking omnipotence. Bullshit. I mean, sure, you can raise your consciousness level and raise your awareness level, and on higher dimensional fields, it may be completely different than what you view it now. There wouldn't be all this ego promotion of ego daily, promotion of sacrifice daily, promotion of slavery daily in this three-dimensional holographic system of this earth plane that is a Stargate. But when you have the left-right brain dichotomy and the world presented to you in front of you is using every distraction capable that they're capable of to keep you from forgetting at the fact that you're in a slave holographic matrix in a consciousness prison right now, you have the ability to escape and ascend out and also transmute and alchemize your experience at the moment right now, because it's not like you're leaving at this moment. Even if you realize you are in a matrix, you try to transmute your current situation. And this is where you can get a very fine line with most people, that they might get into a state of psychosis or depression or suicidal. Once you get to the state of knowledge, it's a very dangerous line. You're really on thin ice at this particular stage of understanding. But you can move past all those implants such as guilt and regret and shame and victimizer and all these alien implants, and move past and just trying to transmute and alchemize the degree to how you live this lifetime on this earth, because you were sent to this earth by how much of a prison hellhole it may be. And from that point on, once you undergo physical death, your multidimensional identity continues and continues and continues. Now you can just be aware of that fact and move on with life, not be embedded and stuck in whatever teaching you were explained to. If it's verifiable or complete bullshit, all the same. I would say the same I would definitely say the same if you're in some crazy cult, like out there bullshit cults, or if you're following truthful, scientific, spiritual information, all the same, you can be implanted with it. They become attachments to attached. When you're attached and you're connected, it's two different things. You can be connected by a nice thread, let's have a little connection. But when you're attached, it means you're glued to it, stuck to it, embedded into it, dependent on it. That's when it becomes an unhealthy relationship with the information you learn, and you lose your integrity and sovereignty and ability to understand that you have perfection within. Even with spiritual exercises, yes, it is great and beneficial to do meditating and do techniques and do breathing techniques and do knowledge research, but like it becomes a trap that you're just attaining this knowledge, experience, all this without reminding yourself that these can be integrated from within, and you don't need to constantly look outside for answers. That's the point we're trying to make here. So there was one last point I'm trying to make about the left-right dichotomy of the brain. Yes, that's another means of propagation through, as I said, the ego belief systems, ego identification, ego attachment, all these concepts, constructs pointed at it, like thrown at you. It's like, I like to think of it, it's like, you're in a damn trap, maze, slave maze on this earth, consciousness prison on this earth. It's not supposed to be, it should not be, but that's how it is, and that's how God is ultimately, because parts of God forgot they were God and began dominion over other beings, and these beings are called the negative alien agendas, and these negative aliens can be connotated as many different things. We don't want to get into specific, because then we're going to be looked at as a UFO cult, right? We're not a UFO cult, mister. We're giving you information here, okay? Your cognitive dissonance, going to call me a conspiracy theorist? It's okay. You're everything you believe in is a theory. So that's okay for me. Left-right brain dichotomy. You have the more logical thinking, more intuitive thinking. And if you remain in imbalance within either, it creates another implant trap. And guess what propagates right brain imbalance? Religions and spiritual teachings. It's imbalance. We're talking about balance, integration, and non-dependency, non-duality, non-egotism. Understanding that ego cannot be fully eliminated because it's still an aspect of yourself, and you couldn't even get up off the chair because you wouldn't understand that you are a particular individualized self. Consciousness, man, they fucking New Age destroyed that term too. But consciousness in one body, you can't even get up because your ego would be required for you to eat food, get up, move. So we're not talking about just getting rid of ego completely, because that's also New Age bullshit. But we're talking about staying in ego attachment, ego identification, thinking you have superiority of one another, thinking authority should ever exist, thinking that dominion and sacrifice and slavery is means of salvation or means of holiness. Yeah, man, that's called indoctrination. So remember, on this planet known as Earth, negative aliens from the inside out created several mind control programs, implants, and distractions to make you forget about your divinity that's capable without any teachings, or without most teachings, or the fact that anything you were programmed, true or false, well, true, we're talking about true, is rooted from something you already know. You already know. You've already known from a higher dimensional plane, like your other levels of identity understand this. But you're living in illusion, mind wipe, just thinking that, oh, I'm here on this planet, and somehow money is normal, according to me, and somehow government's normal, and somehow living in fucking 2 square houses in a specific spot with fucking death rate towers and spraying with chemicals and poisoning water and food and injecting with nanotechnology is normal. And wars is normal because war should never happen, and to actually justify any military or cops makes you an immoral being. And maybe you shouldn't be at fault for that, but you should be slightly accountable for what you represent. That's another thing to consider. There's a lot in this mind control prison. Gotta alchemize, gotta remember. Fuck the bullshit. Literally, you are fucking demon and fucking God, man. Demon, just like Jehovah was a demon, collective demon, right? You're God and satanic, but hopefully not satanic in the belief that you can create government, because government is the definition of Satanism. Okay, thank you everyone. This is Medipeakdp. Please don't do it, but guess what? You have a concept that God gave you called free will. And guess what free will allows you to do? It allows you to literally destroy yourself from the inside out, completely enslave yourself.
That notion of self-enslavement or collective enslavement, and those belief systems that some people or a lot of people may have, well, honestly, it's not actually from you. It's influenced by your programming and your indoctrination. So it's actually not from you. In all honesty, you fell for some bullshit because you can't see, you have cognitive dissonance, you don't want to accept reality, you don't want to accept that you've been lied to, and you don't want to accept that you're in a slave consciousness energetic farm. Negative aliens use this as a soul-sucking energy, sucking our energy in our souls. Not per se our soul, but they recycle our souls. There's the false umbilicus matrix that recycles your soul. So, from that point on, you will realize that everything can become an implant. Even the concept of your dependency on meat or something like that can become an implant, because then you start to believe and fully actualize and make it reality that you have a dependency on a specific item or substance, or what if you're dependent on toxic relationships as well? Becomes an implant. Implants. Today we were talking about implants. Everyone, take care. Even being on social media become a fucking implant. But take care.